Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Boomer Live once again. As we are here to talk about the South Africa vs Australia game, where South Africa once again showed it in this World Cup that why they are a contender and why they are here for no jokes. I mean, what a brilliant win for South Africa and Australia. Everybody expected this to be a very closely fought encounter, but it wasn't to be. It was South Africa who had the upper hand from the very word go, and then you can see Australia just got bundled out in a way even they did not expect. They lost 6 wickets for 60 odd runs, and from there on, it was just a spiral down for the Australian team. Just managed to score 177. It's a better recovery, one can say so, to make them feel good, but still. Losing by 134 runs is something which they will be remembered for. Remember now, South Africa have won two of their games on the trot, and on the other end of things, Australia have lost two games on the bounce, which is certainly not a good thing for this Australian team. But before we get into the live, do not forget to check out our channel as well. And if you're new here, click on the bell icon and also hit the like button so it'll help us with the algos as we progress into the live. And also, if you're new here, do not forget to check out our Boomer 11 app. Before we get into the video, just gonna remind you of what Boomer 11 is. Boomer 11 is a free to play fantasy app, and we have also premium contests on our app. We also run shop where you can come and purchase the products and then enter into premium contests by earning some Boomer coins. And on the other end of things, you can check out our predictor feature where you can go out there to give your predictions and play and win so many prizes for absolute free of cost. So this is your opportunity. Get on the app right now. And without any further ado, but let's talk about the match. I'll come to you, Sandimani, to start off with. Sandimani, to be very fair, the South African team looks very dangerous from the very word go. We didn't expect them to be a dangerous unit, but they are just converting it at this point of stage, isn't it? Often we're seeing with South African teams that they are very uh, tentative with their approach. They are a skeptical team, but here they are playing much more fearlessly. It looks like a team who knows to assess conditions. It looks like a team who have come much more prepared to beat the conditions as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think today was a perfect example of assessing the condition. They took some time to settle down because I think they took some 4 to 5 overs to really get a feel of the pitch, and then Temba Bavuma and Quinton de Kock built a strong, solid foundation along with Quinton de Kock, another century, another World Cup century, and uh, this is what I've seen with de Kock is once he gets these hundreds or gets one rolling, and you see back-to-back centuries from Quinton de Kock, he can make it three on the trot, four on the trot in no time, and he's that player who can carry on form for quite. Carry on the same bit of form for say 3 to 4 matches, which is not quite common across a lot of players. Kumar Sangakkara could do that, and I think Quinton de Kock really can do that as well. And also, I think Australia were really battered across all ends. I think the fielding was also a joke. They missed some really simple chances which you don't expect from the Australian side. But having said all that, this South African side really brilliantly assessed the conditions. They knew something over 300 would put up a strong fight, and the bowlers came in. The Steven Smith dismissal. I mean, both Steven Smith and Labuschagne were dumbfounded and were really surprised. So I mean, we'll surely talk about it later. But I mean, Australia were never in the game. 70 for six, chasing 311 with a batting lineup you can really boast of. Marcus Stoinis is coming in at number 7. Is a batting lineup that is batting deep, and we know this Australian team, like the England team, can bat till 11. You saw Hazelwood smack 2 sixes against Ravindra Jadeja in the series prior to the World Cup as well. So you know that they bat deep. They can bat at number 10, number 11. The player can come in and swing and get the job done. So what they needed was a strong, solid start from Mitchell Marsh and David Warner. David Warner has been able to do that in the previous games, failed today. But Mitchell Marsh is starting to be a concern for me because he's opening. I know once Travis Head is back, probably he'll take that opening slot away from Mitchell Marsh. But so far, I don't think Mitchell Marsh has been displaying his batting talents to the best of his abilities. You see one or two innings here and there where he gets a start and goes on to score 80, 90 runs. But other than that, he is really struggling at the top, and he's wasting deliveries and then getting out, which is in fact spoiling the power play as well. Australia are not being able to utilize any of the power plays. You saw it against India, some 43, 40 odd runs without losing just the one wicket. And you saw today as well. it was a slow start chasing 311. You can't do that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very fair point from Sandipani as well, especially when it comes to the overall analysis of the game. But to be very fair, I also feel this Australian team have been extremely poor in doing basics, right? Even if you look at the last game, they did a lot of things wrong. Let it be tactical, let it be making those decisions in important moments in the game when it comes to batting or with the ball as well. This is not the Australian thing to do, isn't it? This is not the Australian way of playing cricket as well. Once they get a team on the mat, they absolutely crush the team. That's the Australian way of playing cricket. But here you can say in the last 10 overs, they did make an extremely good comeback by just conceding 74 odd runs with the ball. But the way in which they came out with the bat, I mean, we have to talk about the batting performance. That was abysmal. You couldn't have asked for any worse performance than that from an Australian team. I know they've gotten a Josh Inglis in place of Alex Carey just to go out there and maybe add a lot more solidity with the bat because they just had a feeling that Alex Carey was found out in all levels, especially against spinners. But today he got a Jaffa from Kagiso Rabada. But I'm just liking the fact that Kagiso Rabada is coming and bowling in the after the power play as well, coming and bowling the second power play rather. But Jiran, I want to ask you this question. Number one to talk about which I mean he didn't mention about Mitchell Marsh's issue, but I just feel Australia at this point lack a little bit of confidence and a little bit of dynamism in the middle of the order because that batting collapse, which they've been having time and time again, is now being a major issue for them in a World Cup like this. We thought it could be just a bilateral series issue. Come the World Cup, they'll pull up the socks. But now it's time to maybe retrospect and also introspect as to why is it happening way too often. From the South African series until now, it's been one thing which has been very constant with this Australian team. That is the batting collapses, which has been occurring at a very fast rate and a very often rate. Then you're on mute.
I mean, you have to say, able. This is something which is, I think it's really mental because the mental side of it is really the reason why it's happening. Because I mean, you would have to say that Australian middle order was the strongest when the squad was announced. Everyone was already appreciating how deep this Australian batting lineup goes and how good their middle order looked with the likes of Marcus Stoinis, the likes of Alex Carey. I know he's not been in form again, but he's got the potential. And forget, even if you remove Alex Carey out of the equation, you still got the likes of Steve Smith, you still got the likes of Manas Labuschagne, and all these guys have performed well. I just think the South African series really broke them because in a lot of places you saw, these Australian middle order really going for runs and going after the bowling and then losing their wicket. So I just feel it's that fear from the South African series because the three matches that they lost, or rather the two matches that they won, the middle order was perfect. Then the three matches that they lost, you saw the middle order collapsing. And from there on, again in the India series, it continued. I think in many ways they are not able to strike a chord between, going after the bowling, scoring runs, and just playing safe shots and trying to rotate strike. And today as well, now you would have to say obviously credit has to be given to the South African bowling. They were just all over the Australians. There were some beauties ball to the likes of Josh Inglis, and you'd have to say Steve Smith, very unlucky today. Looked like there was something, a big innings written for him because very surprising the impact was on exactly the leg stump, and then the ball went on to hit leg stump. So with the angle, it just doesn't seem possible that it would have gone on to hit the leg stump. It just seems like it would have missed clearly, and I think there was an error from DRS because I saw Labuschagne and T Smith. And Labuschagne, when the review was taken by Temba Bavuma, he was clearly already saying it's going down leg side, and that's what I felt as well. But everyone was flabbergasted when the review turned out to be for South Africa. And then again, Marcus Stoinis' dismissal as well, where the glove which connected with the ball was clearly off the bat, and rules say that as long as the gloves is off the bat, it's okay if it has touched the gloves. As long as gloves are part of the bat, that's when the dismissal can be given. So surprising again that the third umpire did not consider that. So some decisions did go against Australia. I think in many ways you'd have to say it was not their day, because how often do you see a Marcus Stoinis drop catches like that, or Sean Abbott not being able to throw the ricochet after catching the ball and throwing it back too far away from Mitch Stark, and all these things did not go their way, and that really hurt them. I still believe that South Africa got 40 runs extra because both David Miller and Marco Jansen were dropped. I mean, there were dollies which were dropped, and they're the ones who gave South Africa that extra push to get into the 311 mark. But then looking in hindsight, it wouldn't have mattered anyway because the ball did a lot more under the lights, and I think Australia just couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah, firstly, you have to give credit for what South Africa did in terms of their batting performance. I mean, Sandeepani, we've often spoken about Quinton de Kock being a bilateral series giant. He's gone to do well in all the league formats, all the league cricket, rather, franchise cricket across the world. He's been an IPL winner multiple times. But finally, when we talk about South African team and major World Cups, this you can say has been some of the best we have seen of Quinton de Kock in an ICC tournament. In 2015, he was just coming into the scene. 2019, he was a disappointment, and finally, when you talk about this major tournament, he has finally come on his own. Two back-to-back hundreds, and that's certainly sending out a statement. It's certainly bolstering South Africa's confidence as well going ahead. Remember, today his 100 was a difference between two teams because towards the latter end, it did get tougher batting even for South African middle order bats.
Exactly, and I think if this would have been on one of those flatter decks that we have seen in the past, say a Delhi, or probably a Bangal Chinnaswamy as well, the score would have been well in excess of 350 as well, because the start that South Africa got and the way they paced their innings, I think it was perfect. The openers got them to a solid partnership, and then Vanderderson came in and stitched another solid partnership until Aiden Markram, Henrik Klassen came in. The stage was set for them to go big. They lost their wickets in consecutive overs, which once again, really tinted the run flow. And but then again, Marco Jansen and David Miller, with some luck, definitely did get themselves get them past that 300 mark. But then again, it was brilliant pacing, and I think Quinton de Kock's form is going to be very important. Like you mentioned, I think 2015, 2019 World Cups. 2015, a lot of was not heard of Quinton de Kock. I mean, he was still a youngster. He was performing really well against India in particular, but other than that, I think his performance was pretty mediocre in the 2015 season when the World Cup came. He was very young. 2019, I think he was more experienced, and 2019 World Cup squad that South Africa had, I think it was better than this squad. You had a Faf du Plessis in the middle order, and I mean, it looked dangerous, but they did what they do in ICC events. This is a very uncharacteristic start, but I won't have my hopes high if I'm South Africa, because I know they end up choking at the worst bit of moments. But beating both Sri Lanka and South Africa and Australia clinically is going to give them a lot of confidence, and this is really going to bolster their net run rate, which is going to come into effect, and this is going to really hurt Australia's chances. I think they are potentially knocked out of the World Cup race, because you lost against India, you lost against South Africa. Now you'll have to face England, New Zealand, Pakistan, and you're still. I mean, you don't still look settled. You don't have a settled 11. Okay, I understand probably them giving Marcus Stoinis a chance, because Marcus Stoinis, if he's fit, he's obviously better than Cameron Green. He's a more experienced player. But I really did not understand them experimenting with Josh Inglis in place of Alex Carey, because once again, I rate Alex Carey really highly as a batter. You can have off days. You can be in a bad shape or bad form. Like you said, he's not really understanding or reading the spinners well.
Yeah.
But then again, I think it was the push in the batting order that he needed, not getting dropped from the side. Now, because Josh Inglis did not do anything better coming in. So what do you do in the next game? Get back Alex Carey or give Josh Inglis another go? I think this was a move that really baffled me, and I think Australia are going to find it very difficult to mount a comeback and even be in contention, because they lost two games by a big net run rate. I mean, the game against India as well. At the end, India really won comfortably with with no troubles. And today as well, a defeat by 134 runs is really going to hurt their net run rate, and I don't see them coming back. And I think South Africa will be very happy with the momentum that Quinton de Kock is bringing, and also the top order batters. I think the like you mentioned, the Australia versus South Africa bilateral series was what really hampered Australia's confidence, and they were really broken down in that series. And I think that really bolstered South Africa's confidence. You had a
Yeah.
Henrik Klassen come in the middle order, David Miller come in, scored those massive hundreds, and give them the belief that they can do that from any situation. And now the top order is also firing. So you have a solid top order who is firing. The middle order is in great form. And then you have the bowlers coming in. And Rabada today looked really dangerous, picked up a 3-4, and the two spinners did their job as well. So I think it was a all-round performance from South Africa. And I think they'll be very pleased with this.
True. Jen, coming to you now, especially when you have to just mention about what South Africa did prior to the World Cup. They did a lot of things right prior to the World Cup, which was to come back in a series against Australia when they were 2-0 down and to come back in the way they did. That also sent out a message that they are a good team when they play fearless brand of cricket, when they have nothing to lose. And that's exactly what they did in that series. And coming into the World Cup, obviously there were questions on whether they can repeat it. They go on to lose that warm-up game against New Zealand by DLS, and everybody start talking about DLS, South Africa, the same old story. But here, when conditions are in their favor, when everything is working for them, they are a tough team to beat. And to add to that, the players they have picked up, the balance of the squad is exemplary at this point. If you have a Marco Jansen who can come in and chip in with runs and ball with a new ball and pick up those wickets, that is a dream for any team to have. A batter, or an all-rounder at number 7, a fast bowling all-rounder rather at number 7, and a genuinely good pacer who's got the bounce, who's got the seam working for them, and who can swing the ball as well. That's been South Africa's difference. And then you have middle order bats who are very comfortable against spin in Indian conditions.
I mean, I think everything that is not going for Australia is exactly what is going for South Africa at this point in time. Heinrich Klaasen is, I think, since the 2000s, he's the third highest strike rate in one day cricket. I mean, overall, if you look at it, I think the only two others who are higher than him is probably, I think, Virendra Sehwag is one of them, and if I'm not wrong, I can't really remember the other one. But yeah, I think he's definitely the third, and he just today, I mean, I know he did not score a lot. He just scored 25 of 20, 26 or 25 or 25, 26, I think it was. Yeah, but I think overall, you'd have to say that both Klaasen, it was 29 or 27. Again, Dave, I mean, I think for me, an important innings today was, I know we'll talk about De Kock all day long, but a very important innings for them was Markram once again coming in for scoring for 56 or 44, because he came in at a time, where things were not as easy. I think he came in right after Van Edison got out, which is the 29th over. And from there on, it was not easy at all. And every other South African batter struggled. De Kock was not scoring a lot in that time. Klaasen came in after him. Did not seem like he was scoring a lot of runs. But Aiden Markram, once again, it's brilliant to see what he did today, because against Sri Lanka, what we saw was him standing still and just stonking the bowlers all around the park, because it was a flat track. It was easier to score boundaries. But today you saw him creating angles. You saw him, playing with the bowlers line and length, creating opportunities. I know he got out trying to do something very similar. Very went a lot across that leg stump and tried to create room and almost and ended up chipping Hazelwood to Cummins. But before that, he had scored a couple of boundaries. I think one of Adam Zampa, which is just brilliant to see. He again did the same thing, got across leg stump, opened up the offside, and played a classical on the top shot. So this lad has been batting like he's looking at the ball as a football, and that's exactly the kind of batting that Australia is missing. Because today, what you needed was an Australian batter to step up. But I'll tell you one thing though, don't write off Australia yet. I know they've had two big losses against India and South Africa, but these are two of the biggest tests they would have faced in the World Cup. They've still got the likes of Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, who are all not really off to a good start in this World Cup. Those and Netherlands as well. So they would probably hope to cover up these the net run rates that they've lost against India and India and the likes of South Africa in these matches. But then only thing is now they've kind of left their chance of qualifying in the top four to the gods' hands, because their net run rate is so low, and it's also helped their rivals of entering top four, clear, they make their path that much more easier. So that's going to be the bigger challenge. It's not just that they have to win big, but they have to hope that the other teams don't win as big as they have been winning. That is the bigger issues, because one thing about Australia is these lads will be sitting there like wounded lions, and I genuinely expect them to come back a lot stronger. But these are the kind of matches that make or break your World Cup. And if you know one thing about Australians, they are their toughest when they are broken.
Absolutely. Aussies behave like fielding in club level. Yeah, I agree with you, because
I
that
think
was
it's
a
still
poor
early days,
fielding
but I would
performance.
still say, just to conclude on Jaden's point, the last time I think the World Cup, the qualification was 11 points because there was one rain outed game and you had to win 5 games. So, I mean, 7 games left, Australia will have to win at least 5. and hope for a better net run
I
rate.
think they will win 5, to be very fair, because I think the oppositions are
Yeah, I
not
mean
the
four
toughest.
four
But
is four is what you expect, like generally pointed Netherlands, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. But then again, that fifth one, Pakistan, New
I
Zealand.
think Pakistan, they should be able to do it in Bangalore, to be very fair. Pakistan, and
I
I
mean,
think
it's,
they'll
it's
get the wood
something
over.
coming from you after you really hyped Pakistan as the best team in the world. You're saying that Australia will just beat Pakistan after such a display. I mean, Pakistan.
Pakistan would have won all their games but lose to Australia.
You beat 14th as
That's a
well.
bold prediction, yeah.
Yeah, I don't give chance to any team against Pakistan. Let it be
But
India, let it be any
my
team.
point being, you have to win at least five and probably to be on the safe side six. So I mean, you can just afford to lose one more game. Australia can
Yeah,
afford to lose just one more game,
yeah,
either against England, New Zealand, or Pakistan. I think they'll have to beat
yeah.
two of the three.
See, Pakistan already defeated world number 2 Netherlands, world number 3 Sri Lanka. So for them, they are on the high. And I think India, who is just a mid-ranked team, should be very afraid. Australia, who are a very below-ranked team, who have been a poor team in the World Cup, should be scared of what Pakistan does in the World Cup. They are mercurial, as per Nasser Hussain. Nasser Hussain says they are the best ICC playing nation. I think he has a point. So I'll just leave it there.
When did he say all this?
He said this in the commentary a couple of times. They're one of the best. He said in Sky Sports, rather, one of the best ICC tournament nations. I don't know. And he says India is not the greatest. And India have been so consistent. I think best ICC per playing nation is the one
I think
with negative
he'll,
work.
first of all, if Nasir Hussain said something like this, I think he'll thank his stars that Ravi Sastry wasn't around. I think if he would have been, I think he would have got a good scolding.
Yeah, worst Australian team ever. Okay, I mean that's an interesting point of debate. We will get on to that. Was if Aussies went on to lose 3 matches, they'll be still in race for qualifying the semifinals. I think that's what we'll be talking about. They can
Yeah.
afford to lose one more, but cannot afford to lose more than that. So 10 to 12 points will be the cutoff in a 50-over World Cup scenario like this. I still think 10 is a cutoff, and you still can maybe manage
But
with
I
maybe
think
8, 9,
But
8.
10 with
the
a
way we're
superior
going to
net
be
run
able
rate.
is, yeah, that's the issue here. I mean, you can lose, you can win five and then, hope to qualify, but then it's a hope and it's not a surety, and that's going to be the bigger issue for them.
I think Australia will manage the net run rate against the smaller teams, is what I believe. They'll come back heavy and they'll come back hard as well. Uh, Now, being in Australia, public are very upset here. Okay, I mean, I can understand it. Obviously, public are staying up all night to watch the game, and Australia capitulating in the way they do. I mean, it's just horrendous at this point of stage. Uh, but talking about which, I mean, we have to also talk about thinking about. I think South Africa will be a tough team to beat. I think yes, South Africa are a tough team to beat. South African batting is very exciting. Do you think Australia should have picked Tim David? Okay, that's an interesting point. And also, we'll talk about this is the worst ever Australian team. Satyamani, you reckon this is the worst ever Australian team to have come to a World Cup? Maybe with the start, I would say this is the worst ever start possibly Australia have gotten in a World Cup in a long, long time. Often we talk about Australia getting off to a blazing start and them feeling very comfortable. But can we say this is the worst ever Australian team in a World Cup? I still don't think so. It's the worst ever team.
Obviously, I don't think so. I think, yeah, obviously, 1990s and 2000s, the Australian team, it was feared all across the globe. I think they were a really, really dominant force. Was the what the women's team is doing for Australia right now? The men's team was doing it in the early 2000s and the 1990s. So I think, obviously, this team does not match up to that. But I think if you consider Australia post 2010, I think this is not the worst contingent. I think 2011 or a 2015. 2015 they did go on to win because of some home advantages as well. Also, there was Michael Clark, Steven Smith come, and there were players that were coming of age, and there were players who were really settled in that team. But I think this combination is almost similar to the 2019, and I feel that Australia has lots of all-rounders, lots of experienced players in this tournament, because this is a more experienced version of the 2019 edition for Australia. So I don't think this is a bad team to have. I just think that they haven't been clinical. The batters haven't really looked to go about the business in a certain plan. They got a good start against India. It was a slow start, but it was a steady start. But this middle order, the collapse in the middle order is what has really bogged down Australia in the last two games. So I think they'll get past it. And once one of the top three, I mean, you expect a David Warner, Steven Smith, or Mitchell Marsh. You have to expect one of these three to come in and get that big score, a big 100 maybe in one of the flatter decks, to really get the confidence going. And then you have the likes of Maxwell, Stoinis, English, or Alex Carey, whoever it is. I mean, they can just take the game from a run rate of 6 to 10 in no time. So I mean, it's not the worst Australian side, but I think they have the middle order collapse, and the conditions not really favoring them have really affected it. And they don't have that second proper spinner. You need to have 20 overs of. You saw what Maxwell did today. Zampa hasn't been in the best of forms. You saw what the South African spinners did today. Shamsi picked up 2 wickets. Maharaj picked up 2 wickets. But why couldn't the Australian spinner? I mean, Zampa was not at his best.
Yeah.
Markham really, Jaden spoke about the shots that he played. I think he really played. Markham is always a very, very good player of spin, and I think he really neutralized Zampa's threat. And also, I think early on, Quinton de Kock did that too. And if you have a team that plays spin well, and Maxwell is your only hope as the second spinner, you can't
Yeah.
expect to do well in India.
True, true. I agree with you. I think that's
Talking
the
about
thing.
that, I think Tim David would have been an interesting choice because of
Yeah,
his
but
bowling
where would he
abilities
have
as well.
played? You could have played
Yeah,
Maxwell's
I mean,
position. I don't
it's
think
all
they could have
all-rounders in that middle
possibly
from
fit
the
him in.
3 to 7.
I think the issue with Team David also is a very similar thing, right? I mean, in the one day format right now, what Australia need are two batters who can play from the 15th over to the 35th over. Bring the so that the opening firepower can be combined with the lower order firepower that Australia has. That middle phase is the issue for them, and I
But
don't
Jaden,
think Team
talking
David
about
is the
that, I
answer
don't
there.
think they need both Marnus Labuschagne and Steven Smith playing at a strike rate of 80. I think that is what happened against India, and they tried to accelerate and got it wrong. So I think you have to get those players who can score at a strike rate in excess of 90 to 100. Because now
I think
in I
Travis
put
Head
it,
would have been a good option then at number 4 for this team, and he would have maybe done a good job. To be very fair,
I don't think Labuschagne fits at 4.
not Labuschagne. I think Travis Head is what they're missing, but unfortunately, they're still waiting for a positive news from Australia whether he can fly into India to play the rest of the tournament. And that's been the biggest blow for them. When Travis Head was opening the batting, at least you had David Warner opening with him and Mitchell Marsh number 4, number 5. That really gave them a better shape, I believe, into this team rather than what they have right now. At this point, their shape is slightly off. I mean, I know Marnus Labuschagne is a solid batter even today. When that collapse was happening, he was one batter who tried to stay till the end. But unfortunately for him, it's just that he doesn't really fit into the mix of things. And if you look at them from a bigger picture, isn't it, Jaren?
I mean, I think at this point in time, Manus Labuschagne is their best pick because they don't have Travis Head. And I mean, you also have to look at the players they have on board. And you want a batter. I mean, the role that Travis Head played was someone who plays that pivotal role. That pivot from scoring at a strike rate of, let's say, I mean, a run rate of, let's say, 6 runs per over to a run rate of 8 runs per over, and that's what Travis Head used to do for them in the middle order. And I mean, to the credit of someone like to the credit of someone like Manas Labuschagne, he did that role really well for them in South Africa, and he did save them from some really difficult positions. However, having said that, I think the issue here is not not that it's Manas Labuschagne or Steve Smith. It's the fact that they aren't playing longer. They both looking good. They both. I think Manas still look like fish out of water in many. I mean, in both the matches
Yeah.
so far. But at least with Steve Smith as well, he looks good, but then he's not able to continue going. Against India as well, I really believe that India is in trouble because just felt like there was something in the way Steve Smith was playing. But having said that, now you probably have no better batter in Australia at this point in time to replace Manus Labuschagne, but the likes of replace or rather Travis Head, and I think Manas Labuschagne is the only one who fits that bill. But now, what you really do in this situation is the middle order has to really break through whatever issues that they are facing, because this isn't the way an Australian middle order bats. And I mean, I think just going back to that question, about whether this is the worst Australian team to ever tour, ever play in a World Cup. I think 2019 had a lot more holes than this team. The only issue I genuinely see in this team is the fact that there's not a second specialist spinner, and we spoke about this a long time back. There's no second specialist spinner in the squad, and that's where I felt maybe Tanvi Sangha could have been a wild card, could have gone for runs definitely, But the only reason why I feel they did not select Tanvir Sangha is because he can't bat. He doesn't offer with the bat,
I
and
still
they
think
felt.
Nathan Lyon should have been there in this team.
I think
And
Nathan Lyon can come in and do the job, but again, Nathan Lyon doesn't bat. That's the only reason why this Australian team is holding him back. Because right now, the major concern is not bowling. Because today again, the
it's the
bowlers
bat,
did
yeah.
come back, and I think on the day where the fielders would have done a good job, I think this was a 250, 260 innings. Because
Hmm.
imagine if Quinton de Kock was caught, I think Sean Abbott you still won't blame him. But imagine if David Miller and Marco Jansen were caught, or imagine if Pat Cummins had taken the catch of the return catch of Aiden Markram, this would have been a 260, 270 target. And then probably Australia would have felt that they have enough time to continue playing. But unfortunately for them, that those things did not go their way. So I still think that this is a decent Australian team. I think 2019, you would say there was a lot more holes in that team. They did not
Yeah.
have as many bowling options. That's one of the reasons why England they got thrashed in the semi-finals. But in this case, you would say this is a much better team. And we were all singing the swan song of
Yeah.
Australia and how good they are and how really well balanced they are. I think two matches, still a long time to go. That's one thing about this format, right? It is still forgiving compared to a 2003 or 2007 kind of a format.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree with you on that because when this team plays well, everybody will be like, oh, wow, what a team, what a balance, a lot of all rounders, everybody's a match winner. But when this team starts performing badly, then you're looking for names to come in and chip in at the position. And that's the thing with cricket as well. When your team does well, everything is covered up. When a team does badly for a couple of games, all of a sudden you're finding a lot of keeping holes, which is quite shy, which is quite visible, and it's hard to fill those holes in a quick succession. But I think there's another factor to this. That is Adam Zampa's bowling. I mean, we did speak about Adam Zampa in brief, but since that hammering which he got from Andre Klaassen, which was 113 in 10 overs, he's never been the same to very fair. I know he did well in the very next game, but even if you look at the last game or this game, he's not had the control. He's trying to ball way too quick to this team, which was not Adam Zampa's strength. I know he used to ball quicker in comparison with any other leg spinner, but do you reckon he's become more quicker?
Even I think you're on a mute in the last part of that question.
I think Abel just got stuck. In my screen,
Yeah,
it
I
looks like.
think what he was asking Sandipani is whether Adam Zampa has become a lot more defensive. He's been bowling a lot flatter,
Yeah.
and I feel just to add to what he said, I genuinely think today was a pitch where you needed to be a slight bit quicker. So I think I can understand why he tried it, but then that's not really his strength. I mean, look at the bowlers who did well today: Shamsi, Maxwell to an extent, Keshav Maharaj. They ball at a certain pace, and I think that's probably what he was looking to do. But when you're bowling fast, I think the best example is Kuldeep Yadav. You should not really sacrifice your turn, and you should try and reach a point or in the middle ground where you're bowling just enough fast, but getting the right amount of turn as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I
But
think,
Satyavali,
yeah. Go ahead.
before we just conclude as well, because we're running short of time as well. I just want to ask whether this Australian team can make it to the semi-final from here on. I mean, you did already mention about the four teams. What is your hunch? For me, I still
Yeah.
think this Australian team can make it to the semi-final because they've got it in them. As Jaren rightly mentioned before, one team you should be scared of when teams start losing is Australia because they can come back hard. They've gotten that legacy. They've gotten their blood to come back. An Australian team never gives up. They are one team which will come back hard and come back storming into the tournament, and we all are going to take a back seat and be like, "Wow, where did this all come from?" So, can that be a possibility in this World Cup, Sandipani?
Yeah, no, I definitely think Australia are definitely going to win 5 games. But then again, I mean, to make it that six, to make the qualification assured, they'll have to beat either of England or New Zealand, or both of them to make it six. Seven probably, because Pakistan, I'm still assuming that Chinnaswamy is going to be touch and go, because you saw a flat deck when the two teams met in the warm-ups. It was 350, 337. So you can expect a run fest in that game as well. It will boil down to how the spinners are doing for both the teams, because Pakistan does not have the best of spinners. Australia don't have the best of. I mean, Adam Zampa is a class act, but alone he's trying to. And Maxwell has to really take up a lot of burden of bowling 10 overs as well in this team. So I think it is going to boil down to the games between Australia versus Pakistan, New Zealand, and England. And if Australia can really show us what they did in the last year or so, and if somehow Travis Head is back, I mean, Travis Head opening the innings for Australia, I think averages over 50, and he has had terrific performances in 2022, 2023 across all formats as well. So I think once he is back, he'll also give you another 5-6 overs with the ball as well. So everything is going to turn upside for them. And like you mentioned, once they start playing some of the weaker teams, you will see that the batting team, or they have the talent to go on and score well in excess of 400 runs on any given day in a flat deck. So Australia are definitely going to mount a comeback. It is going to be interesting to see whether they can pull up their socks and go ahead and beat New Zealand and England. Looking at the things till now, I don't think they can really go ahead and beat England and New Zealand as of now. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they can really come back. It's still really early in the tournament.
Fair. That's a fair point, fair analysis as well. Because at this point, this juncture, Australia looks like the team with the least probability of qualifying as well. They're on par with Sri
They are
Lanka
below
and
Netherlands on
Netherlands.
the points table.
Yes, unfortunately for them, but they are going to be facing Sri Lanka next in Lucknow. The worst bowling attack of this tournament so far, in my opinion, against Australia. I think that should give them a lot of confidence if they go on to maybe hammer Sri Lanka as Nigerian.
Yeah, think about Sri Lanka is, I think, not just in your opinion, I think statistically as well, they've been the worst bowling attack so far. Netherlands has done, I think, given away less runs than they have. So, which means
Way
that,
less.
yeah, a lot lesser. In fact, against some of the, if you look at the differential between the two teams, the quality of the two teams, you have to say Netherlands, their bowling attack has mounted a lot better performance so far. And both the teams will be looking for a comeback, and now here's where the fighting spirit of the two teams will be brought into question. That's where I think Australia slightly, pushes themselves ahead because of the experience of playing World Cup. This team has got enough lads in them who won a World Cup, while a lot of the Sri Lankan team, players were in their nappies when their team won the World Cup last time around. So that's the only difference I see at this point in time. Because you'd still say, that in these conditions, Sri Lanka are not a bad team, and their
Yeah,
batting is proven to be a tough. The batting has proven to provide a tough challenge to
yeah.
opposition. It's just that the bowling seems really inexperienced for what Australian team. For the challenge that Australian team awaits. The Sri Lankan team
Absolutely,
awaits. Rather.
absolutely. But at the
Having
other
said
end
all
of the
that, I think
spectrum,
just before we end, I think we'll have to talk about the Lucknow pitch as well. I think I am very happy with the
yeah,
job
it was
the
a good
ground
pitch.
staff and the curators have done
But at
to
least for the
turn.
game one, it was good. I
Yeah,
still have to see how it goes on for the next game
no,
if
no,
they're
but
using the same
just to
pitches.
turn the Lucknow pitch of what we had seen in the IPL to this, I think it is a massive, massive
But
improvement.
Sandipani, there's a difference in soil as well. Lucknow is one of the very few stadiums with two soils, which is black and red soil, like we speak about Ahmedabad.
Yeah,
And Lucknow is the second pitch in the country, I think, with two soils. So they can afford to use this pitch. I remember India South Africa game in Lucknow in
yeah,
2022, when Sanju Samson scored an 80 yard, when the pitch was turning square as well. But it was helping
exactly.
the pacers, it was helping the players who played good strokes. So that was a good Lucknow pitch. So I think there have been good Lucknow pitches, but for the IPL, you saw black soil being used, and in black soil, you saw bad runs being scored. If you remember the first match of IPL, when Lucknow played Delhi Capitals, if I remember in that pitch, when I
Yeah,
think
they
it was
scored
Kyle Mayers who
in excess
scored
of
that
200. Yeah,
yeah, in excess of 200 odd. Mark Wood had a very good time in that pitch. So that's what I'm saying. If you use red soil pitches, I think Lucknow Super Giants in specific had asked for black soil pitches and low and slow pitches. And that's one of the reasons why you saw such kind of pitches. And, Gautam Gambhir, we've often seen, even when he was with KKR as well, he had done this before to play on low and slow surface and back their team to go and do a job. Because they had a Ravi Bishnoi, they had an Amit Mishra, and they backed them to do a job. And even Deepak Huda with others and whatnot. But here, I think for World Cup, they had enough time. There was a lot of chatter about the Lucknow pitch. I loved it. But I think let's
exactly.
talk
And
about
I
other
think
team as
they
well
came
because
back strong. I think it would have been a massacre if the pitch wouldn't have been great. But I think World Cup, it was definitely a World Cup
it
standard
was it was
pitch.
a sporty wicket. It was a sporty wicket, and I
Yeah.
think there was in for everybody. There was in for the fast bowler. There was something for the spinner. There was something in for the batter who applied themselves as well. But talking about which, I think we have to talk about South African team who will be playing against Netherlands in few days time. But they'll be playing against Netherlands because they have a point to prove as well from what happened in the T20 World Cup. It is possibly going to be South Africa's biggest challenge in the World Cup considering the history. But for South Africa, at least, they will feel like if they can get one more win, they'll be very comfortable going into that England game in Wankhede, isn't it?
Exactly, and I think it is not really going to be a huge challenge for them because the batters are doing well, and I think the strongest suit for Netherlands is their bowling, and I feel that Netherlands, the only chance that they'll have is if they bat first. they have been looking to chase, and the batting hasn't really turned up for them in this tournament. Whereas for South
Yeah.
Africa, you saw all-round display today, so they'll be much more confident. And this is still early part of the tournament. So if I'm in the South African shoes, I wouldn't really be cautious or really surprised, because they do really well at the start of any tournament. And I think if it would have been say towards the later end, if it would have been 12th of November, then I would have been worried if I was in the South African camp. But 12th of October, I think South Africa are going great.
That's an interesting one. But Jaren, final thoughts: South Africa making it to the semi-finals or not?
Oh, I mean, if they don't make it to the semi-finals after the first two matches they had, we spoke about Australia, how they have faced two of the toughest challenges. I think South Africa hasn't faced the tougher challenges yet, for sure, but today will give them a lot of confidence. Because we all want to see how the South African batting lineup will measure against this bowling attack, and this bowling attack is no joke because they dismantled the New Zealand team. Not the New Zealand team, but the Netherlands team. They made them look like nothing. I know they were not the best of. No, this is not a litmus paper test, but just to score the way they did, and I think it was a 300. They were 300 run pitch, because obviously it did not seem like a Kotla like or a Arun Jaitley Stadium as it's known right now. But to score that much amount of runs, they just and the fact that they bundled out Australia so low, it give them a massive amount of confidence leading up to some of the most important games up ahead. And from here, if they don't get into the semi-finals, I think it'll break a lot of hearts. I think even ones who don't support them will break their hearts, because you would have to really mess up to lose, to not end up in the semis from here.
True. I mean, that's going to be a bad day, bad time for South Africa if they don't end up in semi-final. But I still think if they win against England on 21st of October in Wankhede, I think that's going to turn the tables for them. That's going to make them believe that we have gotten rid of the first four challenges, and if we have gotten 4 wins out of that, then they have to just win a couple of games from there on, and I think they will. And that's going to make them believe that they can go into the semi-final. I think the
And that is
England
why I
team
think
is going to be a
12
turning
points
point.
is going to be the qualification criteria, or I mean, the cutoff is going to be 12 this time,
Yeah,
because last
because
time
some
we
of the
had
teams are
quite a
running away
few
very
games being
quickly.
rained out. Yeah.
Yeah, because some of the teams are running away too quickly, and most of the teams have gotten easier challenges as well up front. Like let's beat New Zealand, but New Zealand has got a big game tomorrow against Bangladesh. If I think that's going to be a big game because it's playing in Chennai, and if Bangladesh spinners come and wrap a web around them, that could be the only way to stop the New Zealand team. We'll talk about it tomorrow when we come for the preview. But that's about it from us. Thank you all for joining once again. It was great to take your questions and we'll talk about the Australian team and their downfall and what they can do to qualify into the semi-final in the coming days. Thank you all once again. See you all very soon. Take care. Stay safe. And do not forget to check out our app Boomer 11 once again. As I mentioned, it's absolutely free to play if you're going for the predictive feature, and also check out the premium contest on our shop. You can purchase products for in the app and also get into premium contest by earning points, and also check the premium predictor contest as well, where you can predict your thoughts: how many runs will your favorite team score, how many wickets will a particular team pick up, and how many sixes will be hit in a match. That's all you have to talk about. That's what you really think in your head. Why don't you just go out there and do it in our app? It's available in Apple App Store and Google Play Store. The link is down in the description. Thank you once again. Good night and see you all. Bye bye.
Good night, guys.